In the previous video, we worked on giving users the ability to view blog posts that they had created in the past. Now we need to give them the ability to edit those blog posts. So I'm going to be adding an edit button to these blog posts, and that will take them to a form where they can make changes to it. So to get started, I will build that form. So we're going to go into our blog app, go into forms.py, and we're going to create a new form for editing those blog posts. So I'll create a new class. This is going to be update blog post form. It will extend forms.modelForm. So it's going to be a custom form, just like the other form that we built in this forms.py class. Want to override meta, set a model to the blog post, set the fields that we want to be able to update. So the fields we want to update are, of course, the same ones. We need the body, the title, and the image. Nothing else is needed here. Next, I want to create a method named save, or a function named save. It's going to take self and set commit equal to true. So that means that this is only going to be called if commit is equal to true. So I want to create a blog. I'll explain this after I just type this out. So I want to get the blog post, get a reference to the blog post, do blog post.title equals self.cleaned data, and reference the title. Remember, if we're inside of a form and that form has been declared valid, so if inside the view we write form is valid and then call save, that would mean that we have access to the cleaned data. So in other words, the form data. So now the next field is going to be the body. And once we have the title and the body, now I can work on getting the image. So if self.cleaned data has an image, if the form has a new image, I want to do blog post dot image equals self dot cleaned data and set that to that new image. Otherwise, I don't want to change the image. That's basically the whole point of this if statement here. If there's a new image, set it. Otherwise, don't change the current image. After that, we can do if commit. So if commit is true, if it's been passed as a function input to this function, I want to write blog post dot save and then return that blog post. So all that's happening here is pretty much I'm building a custom save method for the form. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to specify only these fields as being changed. I don't want to change the author. The author is basically the problem. The author should never change, so I don't want to change the author. I want to specify only the title, only the body, and then only the image if there is a new image that's been uploaded. So I'm going to press Control S to save that. And next I'm going to build the view for updating a blog post. So I'm going into views.py, go define edit blog view. It'll take the request and the slug for that blog post. I want to get the context user equals request dot user. I want to check if the user is authenticated. So if user is authenticated, or if they're not authenticated, I want to return the redirect to the must authenticate screen like we've done before, just like we did kind of, where do we do it? Right here in the create blog post view. And after that, we are ready to check for the blog post. So blog post equals get object or 404, just like we did before, blog post, and pass the slug. Then I want to check for the request. So if request.post, then we need to get the form. The form equals the update form that we just created. So I'm copying that and I'm going to import it up here. Now we have it inside of our view. So update blog post form, request.post or none. And then we need some files because there's an image. So request.files or none. And we also need instance equals blog post, because remember inside of our form we have a instance that's being passed right here. So we need to be able to actually, this is not needed. I think that was from an old way that I was working with the form, because we're actually not passing an instance. That should be fine the way it is. So if form.is valid, then I want to do obj equals form.save commit equals to false. So that will load the parameters into the form, giving it access to the cleaned data. Next, I want to do obj.save. I can print a success message, so success message, and set that equal to updated just so the user knows that an update was actually successful. And then I want to set the blog post equal to the object. So that's why I did object equals form.save and then saved it this way, so that afterwards we have access to the blog post that was updated, and I can set it here. And now down here, I can return that to the context. So update blog post form. I want to set some initial values. I can't remember if we've done initial values yet. I think we have in the other forms. In the account form, going into the view, I think we've done, and yeah, we have done initial values. Okay, I just couldn't remember. So I won't worry about explaining what's going on here. So I want to set initial equal to some values. So there's going to be the title, and the title is going to be the blog post dot title. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to copy that twice. There's going to be the body, blog post dot body, and the image is blog post dot image. So pretty self-explanatory there, just setting some initial values like we've done before. Now I want to add the form to the context. So form equals form, and return render request blog slash edit blog, which we haven't built yet. We're going to build that in just a second here, and then pass the context. So there is our view. Whoops. So I'm pressing Control S, and we're ready to move on to the next part, which is going to be working on the URL. So let's go into the blog's URLs file, urls.py, and I need to insert that new view. So edit blog view, and copy one of these lines. There's going to be, we need to reference the slug still, but we're going to have /edit. So that'll give you an edit view of that particular blog post. So it's going to be very similar to the detail view. It's going to be pretty much the same, just a slightly different form. The next step is building the template. So I'm not actually going to build this live. I'm just going to copy paste it from the source code. But either way, you need to go into the blog directory, go to new file, press Control S, and this is going to be called editblog.html. So as I said, I'm going to be copying this from the source code just to save time. So I've got the correct branch selected here, update blog post using a Django form, and I'm going into blog, going into templates, and I'm going to copy editblog.html, and I'm going to just kind of talk about it really quickly because most of this is repetitions of what we've already done, so I don't want to waste too much time talking about it. So obviously extending base.html, there's our block content, some styling. Then we just have kind of our container, a row, and we have column large 7, so it's taking a small section or a pretty large section of the view. We have our success message that's being printed. Remember, we have this success message right here. And then we have a form with some CSS applied to it. So create form, you can look up here and find the create form CSS. And then we have just the basic fields that we need. We need the title, we need the content or the body, the image, and that's pretty much it. The only thing that you haven't seen here is this onChange method and then this function, this JavaScript function that I wrote down here. So what this is going to do is if the user changes the image, before they save it, it's going to get set to the image view. And I'm actually going to wait till I demonstrate to explain that because it's hard to explain it without you actually seeing what's happening. So just got to notice that everything is the same other than this kind of JavaScript function, which I've included down here. So I'm going to talk about that though when I demonstrate this. So now the last step, I want to press Control S to save that, of course. And now I need to go into the detail blog and we need to add the URL here. So we need to add a button here for the user to be able to get to the blog post and edit it. So just below the body, I'm going to do an if statement. So a Django if statement. If the blog post.author equals request.user, so if the authenticated user is the one who wrote this blog post, then we want to add a link for them to edit it. So using a URL here and referencing the namespace, this is going to be blog edit, and we need to reference the slug, so blog post.slug. And then in here, I can just add an update button. So I'll give this a class of button primary and save that. So now let's go to our website and I'll refresh this. And hopefully we don't get any errors. Of course, we got some errors. Looks like I forgot a colon there. So if the commit is true in the form, right here, I forgot a colon. I seem to forget that often. I'll try and refresh again. So now if the authenticated user is the one who wrote this blog post, there should be an update button at the very bottom, which there is. So if I click this, I'm taken to my update view. So notice it's still the blog, the slug, and then edit is appended to the end of it. So here I can change the title, I can change the body, and I can also change the image. So first, before I talk about how the image is changed, I want to just make sure that it's working. So I'm going to add some exclamation marks to the title, and I will also add I'll add some exclamation marks to the very bottom just to see if a change is actually applied. So clicking update looks like it didn't work because well, either the initial values didn't apply or it wasn't saved. So let's go back to the blog post and let's see if some exclamation marks were applied. Looks like they weren't because there's nothing to the title and there's also nothing to the end here. So it looks like something is wrong. So I just did some debugging and it looks like in the view I actually do need to pass the instance or the blog post as the instance. I thought that if you didn't pass the instance as input through here, you didn't have to do that, but apparently you do. So we need to get reference to the instance, which is the blog post that's being saved. So we need to pass it as an instance parameter to the input of the form inside of the edit view. So now if I go back to our website, I refresh, let's try and just make a change. I'm going to add some exclamation marks to there, add them to there, hit update. We get the updated success message. There's the exclamation marks. And if I go to the very bottom, they're also saved to the body. So now what about the image? So the way this works is if I click here, I'll be able to select a file. Also, if I hover over the image and I click change image, I'll also be able to select a file. So the way this works in the JavaScript, if we look here, I've basically attached an on-click listener to the view that surrounds the image. So, or sorry, it's actually the view that surrounds the image. So right here, this is kind of the demo image that's being displayed. So if we look here, that's this right here. I've attached an on-click listener using JavaScript to this so that when I click on that, it triggers the input file as if I clicked that. So that's what this is right here. It says document get element by ID. The ID is the image group, which is this right here. And if that's clicked, then I want to click the file field, which is this one right here. So basically it's just if they click the image, then act as though they click the file. That's all that's happening. And this is just some CSS for styling. So if I hover over it, the mouse pointer changes and then this little block is right here. And that's pretty much it. Other than also when I click on this itself and I choose an image, that image is then updated immediately. That image isn't saved, but it's just updated in the preview. So that's what the read URL function is right here. So if an image is set, then it sets the source attribute of that that demo image right here, so that as soon as one's selected, it's shown to the user. It's not saved yet, but it's shown. So in order to save it, I actually have to click update, and then that image is updated. Now if I go to the blog post, notice the image is changed. There's exclamation marks, and there's also exclamation marks at the end. So the blog post has been updated, basically. So that's going to be it for this video. In the next one, I'm going to work on displaying blog posts in the home screen. So now that we have some blog posts, we have a way to edit them. Users have the ability to find their blog posts and make changes to them. Now we're going to display them in the home feed.